All right, what's going on, everybody? So this video is obviously what the title is suggesting, that I am the actual creator of the phrase 50 Shades of Grey. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, well, why are you coming out with it right now? It's 2021. It's been 10 years. Why didn't you come out with it before? There's a lot of backstory to this, why I have not come out with it yet. The first and most obvious one was that I couldn't believe that it was happening when it first happened. It became famous so quick that it blindsided me in that sense as well. Now, the other really important thing is that from 2011, when she came out with the book, till now, my life has been absolutely chaotic and disastrous. I'm a musician. That's my main thing that I do. I'm obviously not the guy in the book. That's not what I'm claiming. I'm not claiming any of that stuff. Now, I'm going to explain many things to you in this video. This video is going to be a little bit lengthy, but as long as you can sit through it, you'll understand. I'm going to give you the definition of what it actually means, when I came up with it, and go through the whole lineage of when I first came up with it and everything. Now, there's a lot of content and a lot of backstory to this, but it will make sense to you by the end of the video. Let's go ahead and get started. So I originally came up with the phrase 50 Shades of Grey, and just so you know, that's why I have this up on my screen right now, is that I have a document proving that I had it before she came out with the books. And if you know anything about the books now, I actually don't know much about them except for just what the title is and everything, and what it's supposed to be about, obviously. I can't watch them. If any of you who have ever been through this before and had something taken from you, you're almost in a sense of disbelief, because this is not like, you know, I get a lot of people, I've obviously talked to a lot of people about this, and they're like, well, I've had ideas taken from me before, and they're like, well, it was kind of like it, but not exactly. This is obviously exact, and I know for sure, 100%, I was the first one who ever came up with this phrase, which she ended up taking for her book, essentially, in 2011. Now, originally, her books were not called 50 Shades of Grey. This is another thing people don't know, and I was actually unaware of. Again, I was so irritated that it was taken from me, and just like in disbelief, and I was going through stuff you guys can't even comprehend since 2011 till now. Okay, I mean, just massive. I have insane amounts of sleep deprivation. I do not have normal schedules like you guys do. A lot of people do. The musician's life, if you haven't made it, is extremely difficult, because you're basically stuck at when you were 16, 17 years old, your living situations and everything, relationships to jobs to everything you can absolutely imagine, social constructs and everything that people get settled into. We constantly stay out of that, essentially, if you're still going at it hard. If you're not, and you're going into a career and things like that, that's a little bit different. But like, my life has been the same since I was pretty much 16 to 17 years old, and I am now 40 years old. So a lot of people, you know, sometimes say that I look a little younger, to especially claim that I'm the one who came up with 50 Shades of Grey, but I'm 40 years old. I came up with the phrase between 2006 and 2009. If my memory serves me, it was actually between 2007 and 2008. The document that I have, unfortunately, only goes back a month before she published her books. But again, this is all going to tie. I'm going to tie everything together for you guys. Her books were not originally called 50 Shades of Grey. I had a MySpace page, and I'll elaborate a little bit more on that, but it was a MySpace page that I had posted the quote on. And I don't know, like, this, it gets a little weird, okay? This is not just me reaching here or anything like that. She had to have been, like, I swear to God, watching what I was doing. I don't know, because the way everything was happening, especially when I first came up with it, I was the same age as the dude that's in her book. I was the same age. I was 27 years old, was around the time when I came up with it. And that's the age of the guy who's in the book. So it's a little weird. But so I had it up on a MySpace page since then, up until about 2011. I can't remember exactly when I deleted it, but it was close to when she came out with her book. So I had deleted the page, which had the proof if I had taken a screenshot or anything like that, and it would have been way back 2000, you know, between 2006 and 2009, it would have proof of. This only shows April of 2011. I'll go over that anyways here in a little bit, which is right before she published her books. So yeah, I deleted the MySpace page. This is MySpace days, okay? And then she decided to change her books, which were originally called Masters of the Universe. They were not called 50 Shades of Grey. Okay, now if you don't know much about the books or the movies or anything like that, it was not called 50 Shades of Grey before. Okay, and I don't know if she's given an explanation or anything like that, but it's obviously completely fabricated. I have proof, even though it only goes back a month, that I still had it. Even if it was a day before she published her books, I still had it before she had it. Okay, anyways, I deleted the MySpace page. And then she decided to make that the title of her book. And that's not the whole quote. I'm going to explain more to you. Again, there's a lot of backstory and a lot of things that actually have gone on, especially in the last 10 years and things of that nature. But she lives in the UK, I believe. I'm in the United States, obviously, and you can obviously know where the 50 came from. You know, I'm sure a lot of people have guessed where it actually came from. 50 is the 50 states of the United States. We have other territories and things like that. So people think that we have 51 and 52 states. Some people think we still have 49 states. No, we have legitimate, as far as the United States, we have 50 of them. Now we have other territories, yes, but you can look this up, okay? Anyways, I don't want to argue that with people because I've had that argument with a lot of people, obviously. We have 50 states in the United States, 50 shades of gray, 50 states in the United States. And I will elaborate what everything means. So 50 shades of gray also is not the whole quote. For those of you who are still watching, the whole quote, which is not documented, she didn't make any movies about it, she didn't use it as a title or anything like that. So it'll be basically documented now. The whole phrase is 50 Shades of Grey in a world of color. You're not going to find that anywhere because that was the whole original phrase. And unfortunately, I don't have it in the document because I had originally just put the short phrase, which is 50 Shades of Grey, on MySpace. This also formed off of, it was a political stance that I had. It was a very short manifesto. It was like a paragraph long. I think I even have it in there, but the name is not actually tied to it. But anyways, 50 Shades of Grey kind of stemmed off of a movie called Charlie Wilson's War. Some of you may have seen that. A lot of people have not. It is kind of an old movie. It came out in 2007. That's why I think, if I remember correctly, it was around that time because it had sparked that idea. And I had watched that movie, and it had to do with the things that we were dealing with in Afghanistan at that time, and Russia, and kind of how we go in and we think that we're trying to, you know, push democracy and help these countries and things like that, and then we pull out, and then we don't demilitarize completely. We do other things completely aside from that as well. We have been known and caught as the United States. We've been known and caught for aiding other countries. Militarily, like giving them weapons and things like that, so that obviously that we want that side to win, or we want a conflict to happen at that time. So we don't always do the most clean work as far as America goes, and that's kind of what the title suggests is. But it's more for the civilians and the population. The 50 States of the United States, 50 Shades of Grey had to do with, like, you know, we have the wool kind of pulled over our eyes, and we only see things in a certain light, obviously, in shades of gray, is the best descriptive way that I was able to come up with, because it also gives that kind of like lack, or just like emptiness, essentially. It's the negative, essentially. You're not getting everything, and that's also why I also came up with In a World of Color, was also kind of a contrast of that the whole world has ideas besides America. And I'm not anti-America, I'm not anything like that, but I'm also a realist in the sense that, like, I try to stay down the middle as well. I'm not biased and things of that nature, but, you know, if I see things wrong with a country or my country or whatever it is, you know, we point those things out and we try to fix them. The problem that was going on between, you know, the early 2000s and mid 2000s is like there was this kind of it was a conscious uprising of people starting to get upset towards other people if you talked against America, if you contested anything that America was doing or our government was doing, politically, internationally, or anything like that. So, so that's kind of where this came from as well. Also, Charlie Wilson's War, and then also that there was this consciousness that was starting to come up, trying to convince people that they shouldn't have anything wrong to say about America. So, I'm not one of those people. I will straight up say when there's a problem and things like that, of that nature, you know, or at least in good time I will. But I still try to be unbiased and things of that nature, try to shoot down the middle and everything like that. But anyways, so again, there's a lot of backstory to this. So yeah, now you got some of the original stories that I came up with it between 2006 and 2009. I think it was closer to 2007 because I had also watched a movie called Charlie Wilson's War, and that, at least in my memory, now a lot of stuff has happened obviously since then. I'm 40 years old. My life has been absolutely chaotic. I've been in and out of home so many times. Again, I'm a musician, obviously. That is my life. I'm not the guy in the book. I'm not a billionaire, obviously. None of that. That's all like made up story. So a lot has happened. And the musician's life, if you haven't made it, is extremely destructive, chaotic. I've gone through a lot of mental health issues. I have massive sleep deprivation to where I have to take multiple sleep aids and things of that nature, where I'm just like, I'm almost to the point of where I've almost killed myself doing it. I've had a month and a half episodes of where I was so dizzy I couldn't stand. Just recently, I had a 5-month episode of it. 5 months, I was pretty much out, with the exception of a few days here and there. I couldn't barely walk. I had to have my mom be my caretaker. There has been a lot of stuff going on. Okay, it's not everyone thinks, well, why didn't you come out with it originally? Why didn't you come out with this in 2011? Well, in 2011, I was writing the first few songs to my album. Kind of album or self-titled name is Objects of Venus. That's kind of my pseudonym. That's kind of what I go by. That's 2011. 2010, 2011 was when I was starting to write, starting to become a solo artist, and I was starting to write my music. After that happened, I kind of like needed to move out of the house that I was in because I was just having a lot of problems with it and things weren't working out. So I had to move back into my mom's place. This is around 2011, right when she came out with this, right before I had deleted previously the MySpace page, I think before I had moved out of this particular house. But anyways, moved into my mom's. Everything at that point in my life has been downhill since then. Absolutely downhill. My mental health just went completely out the window. I came up with alopecia areata, which is where your hair falls out in circle patches. Right now my hair is fine. It grows back, but the moment I start stressing or doing anything like that, it falls out. It's basically a autoimmune disorder that causes your hair to fall out in circle patches. Alopecia areata. Okay, I developed that disorder, along with the mental health issues, along with like my depression. Like, I'm a musician. It just kind of goes with the territory because the life that we live is very rough if you haven't made it. You're basically living the same as you did when you were like 16, 17 years old, and I'm a 40-year-old man still living that way. So it's very, very hard. All social constructs out the window. Anything you guys rely on or anything you guys work on, musicians, we go completely against the grain. Relationships, jobs, everything that can give you somewhat of some good mental health, even though you might not like your job, having a little bit of job security is, trust me, way better than not having a job. Not having a job just absolutely wrecks and wreaks havoc in your life. Obviously, you can't afford stuff. And, I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. Between not being able to have a car because of it, and not being able to pay for gas, not being able to everything you can possibly think of. That a lot of people end up taking advantage of and not realizing that the situation, even though they're working for it, is actually a much more stable position than somebody in our position. So anyways, it causes a lot of problems. More problems than anybody would want. So yeah, a lot has happened since all this has happened, since 2011. And that is why I did not come out with it then, because I was going through so much stuff, guys. I mean, just ridiculous. I have been basically in a dream state since 2011, between my sleep deprivation and having to take massive amounts of sleep aid, again, to where it's caused just absolute havoc on my life. I have weeks and months where I go to where I'll stay up till 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, sometimes even later. My circadian rhythm is all off. It creates absolute havoc. You can't focus, you can't work, you can't do anything. You're sleeping most of the time. So, like, people don't realize that, and it just rolls into itself, just like depression. Anybody who has depression, you understand. It's just like, well, a lot of people will just get over it, just do that. Yeah, okay. If it were that easy, nobody in the United States, nobody in the entire world would ever have depression. No one would have chronic depression. No one would have chronic sleep deprivation or insomnia. We can just go, hey, snap our fingers and be out of it. It doesn't work like that, okay? I really don't want to get into it, but it doesn't work like that at all. And the longer you're in it, the harder it is to get out of it. We did a thing in high school, when I was in high school, to show drug addiction and things of that nature, of what happens. And some of you may have even done this in your school. When drug addiction takes you, or these things, chronic illnesses and chronic disorders take you, and it was a visualization to show you what happens. And so what they did is they took some duct tape. They took one person, right? And they were going to duct tape them, yes. But they duct taped them around both of their arms, and their waist right here. And so what they did was they just did it one time. And they had you go, okay, so go ahead and try and break through it. And you were able to go and break through it, because it was only one wrap of duct tape. Well, they obviously did 2 wraps, 3 wraps, and then they did a bunch. Then the person was still able to break through it. It was harder to break through it. But it was to give you that physical visual of what addiction does to you, of what having disorders does, what chronic illnesses and all that stuff does to you, is that it's not a snap of the finger, okay? it doesn't work like that. And I get really upset because there's a lot of people out there that like, well, you could have just, you could have said this and done this around that time. There's so much, dude, when you're going through sleep deprivation, it's not just one thing, mental health issues, sleep deprivation, going in and out of the hospital. I had alopecia areata. This is all happening all at the same time. I had to move back into my mom's place. I had no car. No, it was like a bad country song. Everything was gone, dude. No girlfriend, no nothing. Lost my job. My whole life was just completely uprooted. Okay, if any of you who have ever experienced that, have experienced natural disasters, have experienced anything, there ain't shit you're doing at that time except for trying to survive and stay alive, essentially. But I have basically had that happen to me from 2011 till now, till 2021, and I'm still going through shit. Just in January, I had a 5-month episode from January to June, and I'm still not over it. I was bedridden for most of January up until June. It was a 5-month period. Okay, this is not a joke. This is not like I'm not, over exaggerating, making stuff up or anything like that. I've had serious stuff happen to me since 2011 till now, till 2021, and I'm still not completely over this stuff. Obviously, I'm trying to get over it. I was in and out of the hospital 15 times in that 5 months, so there's been a massive amounts of stuff going on. So why I also did not come out with it between that time is, anybody who's ever experienced something like this, and I mean exact, not like somebody took an idea that was like yours, okay? She took word for word 50 Shades of Grey. I have it in this document back here. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. It does something to you, okay? It's like when you hear women who have been victimized and they don't come out with it, or people who have been victimized from the church or things like that, and like 20, 30 years later, they come out with it, and you're like, well, why didn't you say something earlier? Because it does something to your psyche, and it's something you can't even push through. Okay, it's obviously it happens all the time. Why are people always not coming out when they should come out? There's multiple reasons. There's those people try to scare them into it. And my situation was not necessarily that. This had to do with the title of a book and stuff. But everything that I was going through, on top of that, it literally, because of all the stuff I was going through, like I said, I've been in like a dream state, like a haze state. And when I found out, when somebody told me, it almost didn't seem real to me, to be honest with you. There's a lot of freaking people out there. I have friends like this. Unfortunately, they're like, "Whoa, then you should have done something. Then you should do this. And you should have, would have, could have, should have, would have, could have." I can look at your life, that same person, and go, "Well, you should have done this. You should have done this. You should have done this." It doesn't always work that life doesn't always work that way. Okay, shit gets in the way. Shit just fucking And first off, it's that thing where it's kind of like being victimized. Is I didn't think anybody was going to believe me, first off. And the only reason why I'm doing this now is because I've had so many health issues. I honestly didn't know if I was going to survive. Me and my mom were making funeral plans, essentially. Sorry, I have a lot of brain fog and stuff like that. So sometimes I'm kind of going off on a lot of stuff here, and there's a lot of material, like I said. But anyways, so it was just unbelievable to me. It didn't even seem real. Okay, like how something so massive, and that was the thing, what people don't understand. It wasn't like it kind of became famous slowly over time. It's like how stuff goes viral now. That book in 2011, like almost instantaneously became like bestseller, was done. You can read in the back here. It was published in 52 languages. It was like one of the bestsellers ever, almost overnight. So it did not, it's one of those things that just blindsided me. I was going through so much stuff. I knew no one was going to believe me anyways. I really wish I had, in 2006 to 2009, had taken some screenshots of the MySpace page that ended up getting deleted. Luckily, I had saved this document. The document is called Band Names. That's because I just put it, I kind of like lump summed it into that document. It wasn't originally a band name, but I was going through a lot of my lyrics and going through a lot of stuff and quotes, and when I took down the site, I was just going through everything. Anything I wrote down, quotes or anything, I was taking them from the sites, taking them from anything, my lyric books, and I was trying to put them in like, okay, these are my band names, or these are like ideas that could be band names. Again, it wasn't a band name. It was originally kind of a phrase political manifesto originally. And again, I'm not even super political, but it was just something I had felt at the time, something how I was seeing how other people were viewing things, and giving people grief for talking against America, or saying that there's any problem with it, and things of that nature. So yeah, so I'm going to cut over here pretty soon and go over the document. Again, there is a lot of backstory of why I didn't come out with it, and that was just kind of a brief explanation. There's, I mean, just everything that I was going through was just ridiculous. Still have been going through is just like monumental stuff, like just mountains of stuff that I can't even sift through, to be honest with you. All when she started publishing her book and everything. So that's where 50 Shades of Grey came from. It was about the 50 states of the United States, up to the 50 obviously stands for. Now again, 50, she has nothing to do with that. She lives in the UK. Okay, there's no reason why she would use 50 Shades of Grey. And first off, if you look up how many shades of gray we can see, it's 30 shades of gray. And I'm going to elaborate over that a little bit more as well. There's no reason why she should have used 50 Shades of Grey. Going over a little more, why she had no reason to use 50 Shades of Grey, because it's obviously synonymous with the book now, even though she didn't create it, because people just don't think like this, because it's synonymous with the book now, and because the book became so famous. Take this for instance, okay? If I went and walked up to you on the street, and I said, 20 colors of brown, what would be your reaction? You'd be like, okay, and what does that even mean? Why did you just come up to me and say 20 colors of brown? That's what you guys don't understand, is that 50 Shades of Grey is like the middle part of a sentence, if you were. Like, if I were to come up to you and say, cat's umbilical, you'd be like, what? Like, elaborate. What the hell do you mean by cat's umbilical? What the hell do you mean by 20 colors of brown? It doesn't make any sense. But because it's synonymous with the books, and the book became famous overnight, the human mind has a tendency to just accept it and go, oh yeah, that sounds right, 50 Shades of Grey. Does it really? It doesn't actually sound right when you understand. The only reason why it had meaning or definition was because I came up with it based off of a kind of a political stance that I had. Okay? It doesn't mean anything to that book. It'd be like having a book full of flowers and has to do with gardening, yet it said like guitars and drums on it. You'd be like, what? But if that book became super famous overnight, it would be synonymous with that particular thing, and we wouldn't think anything of it. That is what happens, and that's what happened with this book and my phrase. 50 Shades of Grey. That phrase has to do with, first off, something that I created, first off. But if you look at it just based off of 50 Shades of Grey, has to do with pigmentation that we can see, has absolutely nothing to do with BDSM. And people don't think of that, because it's synonymous with the book, because the book became famous, and with that, the name became famous with it. So people don't question it. Think about that. It has to do with a certain amount of pigmentation, and actually, 30 Shades of Grey is actually what we can see up to, the pigmentation of gray. So it has to do with pigmentation of color, negative color, if you will. So yeah, it has nothing to do with BDSM, has nothing to do with romance, has nothing to do with anything of that book. And this is to show you and to prove to you that she did not come up with that name. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. And I know there are some books out there that seemingly don't have anything to do with the content inside of the novel. But if you are a writer, like I am, she's a writer, obviously. If you are a musician, if you are an artist of any type, you generally have two different ways of creating things. Or I mean, you have multiple ways of creating things, obviously. But generally, okay, if you want to do something that's like a satire, generally like the song or the book or anything will be a satire, okay? Because there are people are like, well, there's people that make up, do whimsical names and that obviously are funny type names or things of that nature, and it's like, and they name their song or their book that and stuff like that. Yes, but generally, almost always, you will see that it has a relation to the content. Always. If it's a song, a funny song, could have a funny title. It is always directly tied to the content. Okay? You do not normally have something that has absolutely nothing to do with the book or the music or the whatever being named, titling it or describing it, if it doesn't have some type of meaning or already pre-context to it already, or what they are trying to convey, whether it's something funny or something dramatic or whatever. So when you really comprehend that, 50 Shades of Grey has absolutely nothing to do with any content in her book whatsoever, and is probably not even mentioned. I don't know. Like I said, I won't read the book. I won't even watch the movies. It absolutely just fires me up. My blood starts boiling when I even think about it, which is another reason why I really didn't come out with it. Again, because people I knew weren't going to believe me in the first place. And it just internally eats at me, as well as any of you should or would be able to understand if you've had something specifically, not vaguely, but specifically taken from you, very specific. It does something completely different to you. It kind of messes with you really bad. For instance, I'm explaining this to you guys, right? I know people are going to be like, this is not true what he's saying. And I would say exactly why people don't come out with this stuff. That is where that comes from. Okay. So, and that's why I'm just recording this now anyways, and I'm just like, well, screw it, because I've had this last few years, I've had things that have challenged my life in the sense that, like, I didn't know if I was going to survive. I still don't know if I am, to be honest with you. I just recently had a 5-month episode of not being able to walk, being so dizzy and brain fogged that I thought I was literally dying at that time. I was feeling like I was having heart attacks. And I was having my arms go numb. I had both of them go numb. I have this leg that would tighten. I was having all sorts of issues. My brain felt like it was swelling. I was like, I'm probably done. Like, this is the end. Like I said, my mom and I had a conversation with her, and I said, and I was basically not making like official funeral arrangements, but I told her, I was at the point where I couldn't even talk like I am right now. And I was like, if something happens to me, just don't bury me. Just, turn me into ashes, essentially. And it was legitimate. And, everyone in my family was like, what in the hell is going on? So when you get to points like that in your life and you have these things that you want to get out, sometimes it takes something, that drastic to finally go, okay, well, maybe even if people don't believe me, I'll come out with it and I'll say, this is what happened, whether or not people are going to believe me or not. So that way, at least it's out there. And if I do expire or I pass away, at least something will be out there so that maybe something can reference if they want to, or, if they want to entertain the idea to themselves or anything. So, that's why I'm doing it now. That's why I'm just like, because for 10 years it's been eating at me. I walk into Walmarts and there's, displays of it. There used to be, not as much anymore, but there was, displays every time I walked into frickin' Walmart or other places. And then I'd go to the movies and there'd be like, a new 50 Shades of Grey movie, and then like the parody that came out as well. So like it's, and then all the artists all the famous artists, The Weeknd and everybody who did, Taylor Swift, everyone who did songs on it and everything, stuff like that. I've heard the songs even though I haven't watched the movies and stuff like that. Like I said, I can't watch the movies. I don't normally read novels anyways. To do anything, I would watch the movie, obviously. But I can't even do that. That is how much it like eats at every cell in my body, because I know she took it from me, obviously. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut over now, and I'm going to go to the documentation, and I'm just going to elaborate a few other things that is going to show you that this is not far-fetched. I think some people are like, well, what makes you special? It has nothing to do with somebody being special or not, or at least I don't feel that way. Okay, now maybe, if you want to look at it this way, like, I'm a musician. Like, what if I were to have made it? People think that musicians who have made it celebrities, they think that they're special. But because I haven't made it, I'm not special. That's just not a reality of it, especially with music, man. It's like, it's hit or miss. Like people like stuff, people don't like stuff. People, won't like your music or will like your music. I'm not always trying to please everyone. I'm trying to write music for myself, and hopefully other people like it. And that's basically where I stand with it. But, so I'm going to be cutting over and then showing you the document over here. I'm going to be going over a few other things that are showing you that I'm not reaching. This is obviously something she took from me, and then obviously other things to contrast, because there's other artists who have used gray inside of their band names and things like that. One of them was obviously Gray Days. Have you guys heard of Gray Days? You know who Chester Bennington is? Linkin Park, one of the singers, the main singer of Linkin Park, who did a lot of the screaming and stuff like that, who passed away, who hung himself with a belt. His original band was called Gray Days. But I'm just trying to show you that, like, it's, musicians and artists alike, whether or not you're a painter or writer or whatever it is, we come up with this stuff. This is what we do. And we like using gray, at least in my experience, because gray, it's a very descriptive word that shows almost like an emptiness. And a lot of musicians and artists, we feel very empty. It really describes an emptiness, essentially, and or lack thereof. So I'm going to cut over right now and show you the documents. Let's go ahead and get over to the documents real quick, and appreciate it.
Okay, so this is the document that has 50 Shades of Grey in it. Obviously, the highlighted document over here to the left, it says band names. Now, it obviously was not a band name, but I grouped a bunch of things together. Some of it is band names, some of it is quotes, some of it is words that I was trying to play with, because I write a lot of different stuff. You know, being a singer-songwriter, we a lot of times start off with poetry. I do a thing called scratch write. Now, a lot of artists or authors might call it something different, but it's kind of like, you know, you're building ideas off of a theme or foundation before you start writing. So you have some type of substance before you start writing, you know, giving you the idea of where to start from and work from. I call it scratch writing. It's just because like I just kind of get the idea out, and then from there I will build off of it. So I have many documents like this, guys. Other ones that are not called band names, but are just other grouped together things and quotes and little manifestos, if you were, conscientious writing, if you were. I mean, there's, like I said, I have a bunch of stuff, but this particular one obviously has 50 Shades of Grey in it. I'm going to be showing you the date. I'm going to be opening the document. I'm going to be showing you proof that this document has not been tampered with. It is an original document. I haven't even messed with it since I created it. And from this point on, I am not going to edit the video when I am opening and closing the document, because I want to show you that it's legitimate and it's coming from this document. I'm not pulling it from some other document, you know, or source on my computer. It's coming specifically from this document. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to push spacebar. Now, this is a Mac that I have, so spacebar does this thing called quick view to give you kind of a zoomed in quick view of the document or whatever you're viewing, essentially. So as you can see right here to the side of the document where the pointer is, the mouse pointer, and I'm going to underline it right now, it says 50 Shades of Grey right there. So, and then if you can see up here, it says band names docs. Okay, so it's the same document. Same format. If you want to compare formats over here, like how everything is laid out inside of the document here, it's the same exact format, obviously, the way that it is set out and placed and typed out. Okay, so you know it's not coming from a different document. Now I'm going to right click on it and go to get info, and that's how you get the information, anything about this document, when it was created and whatnot, at least on a Mac. Now I know it's different on PCs. I've owned both PCs and Macs, but that's how you do it on Mac. You right click and do get info, and that's going to show you from this particular document. Obviously it says up here band names docs right up here, and created April 9th 2011 at 1:48 p.m. modified April 9th 2011 at 1:48 p.m. This modified, for anybody who deals with documents, is proof within itself right there. This shows that I have not tampered with this. And that's very important, obviously, because if I were to make this whole thing up and have an older document, because all of us have older documents, created documents that were like, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? So I can be like, oh, I got a 20-year-old document, so I'm going to go ahead and put 50 Shades of Grey in here, and that's how I can make all this up. But that modified is proof that I'm not making this up, that I had it before her. Because the moment you go into a document and you do one action in there, if you change one thing, yes, you can have the created at a very earlier date, like 10, 15, 20 years ago, but the moment you do anything in that document whatsoever, it saves it and timestamps it on that modified right there. So if I went in there right now and I messed with this document, if I even pushed the space bar, exited the document, and saved it, it would now say modified on today's date. So it could say modified on any date after this if I was making this up. Okay, and I'm going to show you the date over here as well. I'm going to go over to this window. This is obviously the Wikipedia biography, if you were, that goes over the book and E.L. James and where she conceived the book. Now, she obviously didn't conceive the title, but she conceived the book, yes. Okay, I didn't have anything to do with the books or any other part of the franchise. I came up with the phrase, which you guys know as the title of the book, was not originally a title of a book. Okay, so I just want to show you that. Okay, so let me just double click on it. Now, if you guys can see here, let me show you right here. Two very important things. Well, the most important thing is up here that I mentioned in the previous video. I have another video, but I'm going to be taking it down. And the reason is because it's really shaky. I didn't have a stand, and now I have a stand. But this right here, anybody who deals with documents, you guys know what this is right here, right? This says compatibility mode. That means that this is an original document. You do not get this compatibility mode up here if this is not an older document that's older to your Microsoft Word. Okay. So again, this is solid, substantial proof right here. It also says compatibility mode up here. And I want to show you this is not a JPEG. I'm going to be moving around. I can highlight. Okay, this is for skeptics. Oh, it's a screenshot or JPEG. I'm sorry, but you can't do this to JPEGs and screenshots. This is me inside the document here. I can change stuff I really don't want to right now because it would obviously change the modified date. Again, I have like 50 plus copies of this, all on different sources, all over the place in different areas. So if this one gets messed up, it's not that big of a deal, but I really don't want to mess it up because I want to keep all of them original, obviously, as much as I can. Anyways, so where the cursor is right here, okay, same document. Up here it says band names, where the mouse cursor is up at the top of the document. I'm going to go back down here into the document where the cursor is, next to where you see I'm underlining it, 50 Shades of Grey. All in the same phrase, all in the same wording, in the same order, which is very important. Okay, and this is another thing that I wanted to get across to people, is that phrases, the things that we say are like a code, and people don't understand this. But this proves that she took it from me, obviously because it's word for word, but that word for word is very important. So if you were to take a lock code right underneath it, and you got 4 or 5 codes underneath it, and it was 6556 or 65565, right? And then somebody else uses the same code, 65565. You will know that somebody took that code, if that makes any sense to you. Now, it's not going to be completely clear to you guys right now, but I'm going to be showing you why phrasings using the order that they used it in shows is proof within itself also that she took it from me. Obviously, because it's word for word, like I said. Now, what do I mean by that? Think about phrasings in different eras of time. Think about Victorian time. Think about Shakespeare time. It sounds very alien to us and foreign to us. That is because in those times, they phrased things, word things different. 50 Shades of Grey makes sense because it's now synonymous with the book. But I'm going to explain that even further, that 50 Shades of Grey has absolutely nothing to do with BDSM, okay? An obvious thing is it's about a pigment or lack thereof of gray. Has nothing to, what does 50 Shades of Grey have to do with BDSM? Has absolutely nothing to do with. 50 is the 50 states of the United States. I can give you the origin and the definition of it. If she's given a definition or an origin of it, it is completely fabricated and a lie. Now you guys are getting a picture of where it came from. I've told you what it means when I was talking earlier in the video, but this is just going over the particular document here. So obviously 50 Shades of Grey there. Now, and then I went over the compatibility mode up here is also proof within itself. This is an older document. I have not tampered with it since I created it. So anyways, go ahead and close that out. And you can see it came from that document. I can spacebar again. You can see 50 Shades of Grey right there. Date, April 9th, 2011, which is a month before she published even her first ebook. Okay, before she even published her paperback on demand. Because there is 2 dates. So on the actual page here, there is 2 dates, which I think one is just saying printed on demand, June 2011 right here. But there's another date down here. Now, I don't know if this is a typo or they are just referring to the fact of the ebook versus the paperback on demand, because there's a May release as well. Okay, yeah, right here. Let me go ahead and highlight that real quick. Okay, it says 50 Shades of Grey was released as an ebook and print on demand paperback in May 2011. Okay, so that goes back, that's the furthest date, 2011 May. Like I said, before this date, you guys have to understand, her books were not called 50 Shades of Grey. She had to get it from somewhere else because her books if you haven't done the research on this or you don't know this, her books were originally called Masters of the Universe. Are you guys familiar with that title? Some of you may be. It's from an older cartoon called He-Man. I know a lot of people have heard of He-Man even though they've never seen it. Well, Masters of the Universe was an associated title with it. So, what do you think happened here? And this is what I'm calling her out on. I'm calling her out on many different things. Is that she is constantly taking other people's ideas. And I'm going to go over that in here because it also tells and goes over in this kind of a biography that the books were kind of an adaptation of a fandom or fan type thing of Twilight as well. Okay. So this would be showing you the type of character that she is. Okay. Now I don't think she's malicious, but she's obviously not doing anything original. She's taking everyone else's ideas and American ideas for that matter. Why she's taking American ideas, I don't know, but that should give you a clear picture. So just think about what was going through her head when she was about to publish her books. For those of you who don't know the process, what happens is the name of your book or certain content in your book has to be ran through checks to see if you're not doing copyright infringement. So what do you think came up when she had to run Masters of the Universe to see if she was going to have copyright infringement on it? Guess what? It came up that it's already been used. So what did she have to do in 2011? She had to find something else. She did not create it. She found it on my webpage. It was a MySpace band page, like I said, of a band called A Dying Light that I used to be in. And that was the quote that was on that band page. And then I had deleted it, I believe around 2011. So it was right around the same time. So this is what gets really weird. There's multiple things in here that get really weird. Okay. When I had originally created 50 Shades of Grey, I was around 26, 27 years old. Now you can read in here. I'm not going to keep scrolling through here and try to find stuff because it's just kind of hard to do while I'm filming. But the character in her book is 27 years old. I was the same age when I first created it. If you understand what I'm telling you here, that there's similarities both in my life and when I deleted this, she took it from me. It gets a little unsettling for myself because that means she knew everything I was doing on my computer and or whatever. All I know is the stuff happened in procession of each other. Exactly. When I deleted the MySpace band page, she decided to use it. Okay. Now, I'm going to go over a couple other things here to show you that she has constantly done this, taken or developed ideas or adaptation off of other people's ideas. As far as this biography goes, she has not created an original thing herself. Let me show you right here. The 50 Shades trilogy was developed from a Twilight fan page. I don't know if you can see where the mouse cursor is down here. It's by background and publication. Twilight fan fiction series, originally titled Masters of the Universe, right there. You guys can look this up on Wikipedia yourself. I'm not making this up. Masters of the Universe, and published by James episodically on fan fiction websites under the pen name Snow Queen's Ice Dragon. The piece featured characters named after Twilight author Stephanie Meyer's characters in Twilight. Again, not original. Edward Cullen and Bella Swan. And so on and so on. You can read the rest of it. But, so let's add this up here. She originally had Masters of the Universe. Not her own title. It was already a title used, an American title. I'm in America. She took my quote and phrase and used it for her book. Secondly, the books were some type of adaptation or, I mean, obviously not exact because Twilight, from what I know, was not didn't have anything to do with BDSM, right? All I know is it says right here in this biography on Wikipedia, showing you that she took Masters of the Universe. I mean, right here in the same sentence was the Twilight fan fiction series originally titled Masters of the Universe. That's two things already. Okay, one, she's plagiarized. Now, I don't know if she knew she plagiarized it, but when she ran it through to see if she can legally use it, she obviously found out she could not use Masters of the Universe. So that's just a couple things to show you. She constantly takes other people's stuff and uses other ideas and does adaptations and does not, as far as this biography goes, create any original content for herself. Now, that should give you guys an idea. I'm not necessarily trying to demonize her. Now, yes, I am absolutely infuriated that I've gotten no credit for this whatsoever. You got to see it from my perspective, going in all over the place, all over the world. These movies came out that, I'd walk into Walmart or different stores and there would be 50 Shades of Grey all throughout the damn store. Walmart was a big proponent of promoting 50 Shades of Grey, and they would always have little island stands with the movies in it, and or they set up the props and things of that nature. Now, I also want to comment on that. If anybody is a reporter or writes articles, anybody who is interested in the story that has credentials, I have no problem with sending this to you through email. I will send you the original document so you can have the proof yourself. You can test it to see if it's been tampered, whatever you want to do. I have no problem with that because I know it's legit. I have no problem doing that. But I need to see credentials. I need to see that you actually work for some type of affiliate or, journalism and things of that nature that's legitimate. I will not do it without seeing credentials. That's for somebody trying to make up something, they'll just make a video and they'll just expect everybody to believe it. I have absolutely no problem sending this to people who have the credentials, who are journalists and writers and things of that nature, who are interested in the story. If it becomes something that people want to look into further, I have no problem with that because I know it's 100%. Let me go to some other examples here. Let me close that out real quick. Now, I'm going to be showing you some people. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, and I'm going to explain who these people are and the similarities to myself. This gentleman here, if I'm saying his name right, it is French. I actually had to look this up, but if I'm saying it right, it's Jean-Michel Basquiat. He is a famous artist who came out of Brooklyn, New York. He was known for doing graffiti and other types of art, abstract things of that nature. He was also in a band called Grey. I'm a musician. I'm just trying to show you guys the contrast, that this is not far-fetched. I'm not overreaching, thinking that I'm special, that I'm trying to get attention here. I'm trying to show you that this happens. And to also further explain is that in the arts and entertainment industry, plagiarism is very rampant. People take ideas all of the time. There's favorite artists that you guys like. I'm not going to name names, but a lot of artists have been caught taking other people's ideas. I mean, specific. I'm not talking about general ideas. I'm talking about very specific ideas. Anyways, this guy is an artist. He's a musician. As you can see down here, you'll see a couple of maybe the album covers here, vinyl type cover here that says Grey on it. Now, that is another thing that I wanted to go over. Do you guys know how to spell Grey in America? I want to tell you a truth that might be embarrassing, but I spelt it Grey. Now, that would make sense for E.L. James because she is in the UK and in Britain, and they spell it Grey. I actually spelt it the same as you would in the UK. Now, I didn't misspell it on purpose. At the time, that's how I thought it was spelt, was Grey. So this is another part of the phrasing and in the order, in that 50 Shades of Grey is a code, and I'm going to go over that as well. I'm going to go over that a little bit more in depth to explain to you, because all that I'm explaining to you is just showing you and bringing to light that she had taken it from me, and she had no reason to say it herself. Anyways, Grey, he spelled it Grey, but I'm going to show you another example of another United States artist. Some of you will know who he is, some of you won't, but I'm going to explain who this is. You guys know who this is? This is Chester Bennington. He is no longer with us, unfortunately. He committed suicide, and as you can see here, Grey Days is the name. As you can see over here, Grey Days. Grey Days is the name of one of his original bands. I think it was his first band. I don't know if it was his very first band, but I know it was an original band. So why you're seeing this is why people don't associate Chester Bennington with Grey Days is because the musicians that were originally in the band after he died wanted to do a commemoration for Chester Bennington. So, but the thing that I want to show you in contrast is that other artists do this. I know gray is a very common color. A lot of people use it from all different genres and walks of life, but this is what I wanted to show you. This is an American. He also spelt it wrong, or whoever was in the band who came up with it spelt it Grey. That is not how you actually spell gray in America. It's Gray in America. It's Grey in the UK and Britain. So yes, it would make sense. You know, it's not going to be completely definitive that she took that from me, but For me, when I explain to you how phrasings and the way things are ordered is kind of like a code, I'm going to go over that in a little bit, but I at least wanted to just kind of show you this with Chester Bennington and his very first band, or one of his first bands, and then also Jean-Michel Basquiat as well, who is also a musician and an artist. Okay. Now this is just to give you a contrast to show you. Okay. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more, showing you that she took it from me. She had no reason to say 50 Shades of Grey. Do you guys know how many shades of gray we can actually see? Have any of you looked it up? We only see 30 Shades of Grey. So that means 50 Shades of Grey had to have come from somewhere, had to have more of an origin story. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that 50 Shades of Grey is not a title of the book. It has nothing to do with BDSM. So what I am showing you here is also other examples of why she had no reason to use that or create that herself. I mean, obviously, for me, like I said, I know that she took it from me. It's just trying to show you guys. Now, 50 Shades of Grey, obviously the 50 stands for the 50 states of the United States. Now you can say, well, 50 can stand for anything for her. That's very true. A lot of this is not solid proof, but it's just to give you another perspective. Now, we obviously automatically associate 50 Shades of Grey and is synonymous with the book. When things become as big, as they say, bigger than life, anything that is tied or associated with it automatically doesn't get questioned. 50 Shades of Grey sounds really normal because, we've seen it. We've been indoctrinated with it. It became an overnight success. When something like that happens, people just don't generally question it. But if I were to walk up to you on the corner of a street and you were standing there and I said, hey, 20 Shades of Brown, what does that even mean? Why would you even say that to me? Obviously, it would have more meaning to it. Obviously, somebody else came up with it. Obviously, it has absolutely nothing to do with BDSM. It's being descriptive on pigments of color or lack thereof, gray colors. Nothing to do with BDSM whatsoever. So I should give you another idea. Now, I want to elaborate a little bit more on how 50 Shades of Grey is kind of a code. And people will be like, what are you even talking about? Phrasings, anybody who's understands languages or English majors or anything like that, you guys all know this. Anybody who writes. Phrasings are incredibly important. And the reason why is because the order that they're used, 50 Shades of Grey, is actually like a code. You are setting those words and phrases to have meaning and or have a certain flow when you're coming up with it or creating it. Now we can say, well, what do you mean? Look back at Shakespearean times. Look back at Victorian times. We talk different. We arrange the words differently. We said them differently with different accents. That from now, when a lot of people hear Shakespearean, like people who are not trained to hear Shakespearean, it is like another language. But we used to talk like that. So that's why 50 Shades of Grey, 100% she took it from me, because the contrast is she could have used any other name. So let's just play with this a little bit. She could have used 7 Shades of Grey. Why didn't she use that? She could have used 15 Shades of Grey. She could have used 4,566 million shades of gray. She literally could have named it or used any number from 0 to infinity. And more likely, she should have used 30 shades of gray, because that is how many pigments of gray that we can see. That would have been more of a common sense title, because there's no reason, and this is what I'm trying to explain to you, there's no reason for anybody to use 50 shades of gray unless it has other backstory to it. Obviously, me coming up with it, it means the 50 states of the United States. It was loosely inspired off of a movie called Charlie Wilson's War. For those of you who have not seen Charlie Wilson's War, please go watch it, because it's partially where this came from. And that movie has to do with our involvement, well, us getting involved with the Afghanistan and Russian conflict at that particular time, which was in the 80s. So there is no reason why she should have used 50 Shades of Grey whatsoever. There's no tie to it. There's no tie to BDSM. And you may be like, well, what do you mean about that? For those of you who do not write on a regular basis, if you're not like a writer, anything of that nature, you can say, well, 50 Shades of Grey, there's a lot of books that have titles that aren't necessarily associated with the book, but that's actually not true. When you actually look into it, the title of a book, almost always, whether it's a drama, a satire, whatever it is, almost always has to do with the content in the book, or in whatever it is, the song that you're creating or the poem that you're creating. It will always have some type of association with it. 50 Shades of Grey, if you guys can really just take that, grab it and separate it from that book, and you set that aside and you think about that, has absolutely nothing to do with BDSM. I'm pretty sure if you go look up other BDSM titles, they're all going to be associated with BDSM. Even some of the fantasy, like other erotic novels, there's probably going to have some type of erotic title. And that's what I'm trying to explain to you. If it is a satire, if it is funny, if it's a drama, if it's a serious song or a serious book, the title will usually match that. As far as the seriousness, or if it's a drama, or if it's comical, that's where it matches. Now, the name might be completely off the wall, like You Slip on Bananas, but You Slip on Bananas title, that's kind of a quirky, kind of a funny name, will generally match the content and the theme of whatever is being created. You don't normally have a title like you're not going to write something dramatic, right? That's literally serious, right? Like the movie that just came out, Dune. You're not going to put a funny title on a serious movie. It just doesn't normally happen. And that's what I'm trying to show you in contrast as well in this. And that's why I'm showing you all these different variations of viewpoints that are not just even opinions. I'm showing you the actual creative process is if it's serious, if it's themed serious, if the content is serious, you're going to have a serious title. You're going to have some type of connection to that. If it's a comedy, you will have some type of comical version of it, of the content that's in there. Even though it may not seem like it, it can be some off the wall name or something like that. But that's where you need to separate the name 50 Shades of Grey from the book and realize that it has absolutely nothing to do with BDSM. So I can keep elaborating on that, what the difference is, but I think you guys get the point. So as you can see here, the only thing that she changed, and I will point that out, but I'm going to point it out for a reason. I'm pretty sure I know why she changed it. But my 50 Shades of Grey, obviously it's the same order, same phrasing. It says 50, the number 50. Now, if you notice, she changed that and spelt it 50. Now, you guys, does anybody who deal with copyrights or anything of that nature know why she did that? I can tell you why. She probably wasn't sure if I had copyrighted it or not. So what did she do? And probably maybe her publisher suggested. Maybe it was her own idea. I don't know. I don't know if this was all her, if she has any type of help or, like I said, publishers or anybody that's counseling her or whatever. I don't know. For those of you who know, you know why she changed it. Because she was not sure, or the people she was working with was not sure if it was going to become a legal issue. I'm going to go back down here again and show you and highlight Masters of the Universe. That would have been big copyright infringement for her. She was already doing this multiple times, guys. If you just really open your eyes and you see that all this proves that she took it from me, proves that she did not originally create it. Just off of this right here, she had to change this. I don't remember the percentage. I don't know if it's like 25%, but there's a certain amount of percentage when you change something, like song lyrics or whatever it is. The most infamous one was the do that Vanilla Ice took. That was very controversial at the time. And then they were able to use it without doing copyright infringement. So now you know why she changed this 50 is because she was just covering her ass, essentially. Pissing me off, but covering her ass. So anyways, I hope this kind of like giving you something to reference. I'm hoping that a lot of people do believe me, obviously. Like I said, I know for myself, I'm coming out with this so you guys have something to refer to. If it piques interest with anybody, if a journalist sees it or somebody else sees it and it gets back to somebody, because I would like to possibly speak to an attorney. I can prove that I had it before her. I don't know if that holds any weight or not. Maybe it's a possibility. Again, I wouldn't be going after her for her books or any of the franchise because I had nothing to do with that. I want to be absolutely clear with that. I just came up with the phrase 50 Shades of Grey. And the whole phrase is 50 Shades of Grey in a World of Color. Okay, and I would like to at least at minimum have credit. I mean, even if the suit would just be that I won, that people knew that I had created it, because for anybody who has ever had this happen to them, who have had ideas specifically taken from them that are not general ideas, that somebody can kind of get away with and you can't really prove. Now, this is a very specific idea. Psychologically, it does something completely different to you. It messes with you really bad, especially when you see it all over the place. I mean, can you imagine for the last 10 years, I have walked into stores, I have walked into movie theaters. Can you imagine going through that and knowing that I made up that title, but I have gotten absolutely no credit for it? It messes with you really, really bad. It's like somebody is absolutely effing with you, especially on the level that it is. You know, it's like this is something that became worldwide phenomenon and no one knows that I actually came up with the title. And it makes me look like I'm crazy or I'm trying to get attention or try to get money or whatever. I don't care about getting any money from her. I honestly just want her to admit that I came up with it, or anybody who took it from me off of my band page, MySpace band page. I want the credit. And if there's any way to have a lawsuit just to get credit, at the very least, I would like obviously be given credit for what I created. That's about it, guys. Thank you very much for watching this far. I know I've probably just completely gnawed your ears off, both of them at this point. If you have a third one, I'd probably nod that one off as well. Thank you very much again for watching, guys. Everyone be safe and have a good one. Thank you.